Yeah, Ryan, welcome to the podcast. We'll go ahead and get started with what we want to talk about. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name is Ryan Beeson. By trade, I'm an educator. Do lots of things though. I run a summer camp for kids in the summer because I am an educator. It allows me to do that. My primary source of income and primary passion right now is health coaching, just helping people get healthy. I had my own journey, and it started 4 years ago this month, actually, in December. Most people don't start their health journeys in December because it's right during the holidays. Most people gain 7 to 10 pounds during the holidays, and I chose to start my health journey during that.
I was just going to say that's a bold choice to choose December.
We'll get into that a little bit more. But I've got 5 kids ranging from the ages of 5 to 25. I've got a granddaughter who's 18 months old, and a grandson who will be born in February. So super excited about that. Like I said, I'm pretty busy with stuff. I work a couple of jobs. And have a little guy in kindergarten, like I said. But I love it. I love being active, which obviously, losing the kind of weight that I lost really affected that as well. So, excited that I was able to get my life back. I was always an athlete in high school and stuff. Before I knew it, I was 100 pounds heavier than I was in high school. And that obviously, for those of you who have gone through that kind of thing, I also basically blew out both my ACLs in my 20s. And so every time I did that, I gained 20 pounds and then became diabetic when I was 30. And because of the insulin, and anybody knows this, I gained 50 pounds in 3 months. And so there's basically the 100 pounds. So, finally finding something that worked because I had tried everything, and finally finding something that worked. I wanted to share it with the world. So that's where I'm at now. Helped several hundred people. I was just saying that because I said yes to my journey. Over 700 people have chosen to pursue health as well. So it's been super rewarding. And that's why I decided to join you today, just to get the word out even more. So,
yeah, we're so excited to get you on and share your story because it is, so many people struggle with this. And like seeing a story like yours and taking action to help others, achieve the same thing. It's such a inspiration, honestly, because so many people need that help, and you need some kind of support system. And we'll talk about how you kind of went through that and how all your struggles and everything. But of course, everyone who's already been listening to this podcast, knows that Chad and I are healthcare providers. I'm a registered nurse, and Chad's a physical therapist. So we see this on kind of the most severe ends of how obesity impacts your health. And we'll talk about kind of your personal health impacts it made for you. But, what I see a lot of the times, I work in the ICU, and that's, the sickest of the sickest you can get. And, obesity complicates literally everything when it becomes a critically ill state. And, a lot of the times I would say, in my personal experience, this isn't an actual statistic, but I would say over 8 out of 10 people I take care of in the ICU are obese. Mm-hmm. And, it gets complicated with diabetes, and, there's just so many other things you have to look out for. Cardiac health is so impacted. And,
two things I've seen. One, obesity is the number one indicator of success or not success with COVID. I mean, just to be obesity is the number one thing
which does not seem to get talked about as much as it should be. And it really bothers me.
If we focus as much on obesity as we have, whether it would be stuff that may or may not work to help cure it, or vaccines, if we focus on the health end of it, I've been exposed multiple times, and because I'm a lot healthier now, I'm not obese. I've not had an issue. But another thing is something I've learned. And by the way, I'm certified through Villanova University School of Nursing to be a health coach. But 70% of premature death is preventable.
Yeah.
70% of premature death is preventable, and it's because of the choices we make to put in our mouth.
Yeah.
And that is staggering to me. Obviously, Will, I know your family is dealing with something right now with somebody who's super healthy, but you're gonna pass away at some point. you know, you could extend that. And some people are like, well, if I have to eat broccoli and extend my life 2 years, I'm not sure I want to eat broccoli. It's like, okay, man. but you know, it just, you know, 70% of premature death is preventable. So that's something that you know, that's one of the reasons why I chose to get healthy, was because we had our last child when we were 40. And my wife actually lost a stepdad, and he was only 64. And she's like, Ryan, when we're 64, our youngest is basically going to be in college. We can't do that to him. We have to get healthy. And so that's kind of what prodded this journey to start. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the COVID. You know, that obesity is such a high risk factor. And again, in my setting, like you know, a lot of young people will have, you know, get severely ill from COVID, of course. But, you know, I would say more than 90% of them are obese, and, you know, they had modifiable risk factors they could have controlled before that. And, you know, I'm glad that, you know, health is becoming more of a talked about topic. It's becoming more of a practice thing, preventable things. So you are definitely a very good inspiration for many people. So I'm very glad that you're on this podcast.
Yeah.
Chad, what do you say, like, as in like the physical therapy world, like what's your experience with how obesity impacts like mobility and like everything that you've seen in your experience?
Yeah, I think, I mean, two things. And one that, just to kind of go along with Ryan, what you were saying, I see a lot as a physical therapist because I worked primarily in sports med and orthopedics when I was in clinical practice full time. And there's that mindset that you have as an athlete, and that mindset doesn't just automatically shut off once you graduate high school. So, you know, I run into a lot of times guys and girls that, you know, are now, you know, and I don't want to say past their prime, but they're no longer competing, but they still have that competition mindset, and they may or may not realize their bodies are not quite the same level of conditioning as they used to be. So, you know, we see a lot of those types of injuries that are very preventable. But, you know, like kind of like you said, Ryan, usually that's the moment, I think, is when they get something major like that, whether it be an ACL reconstruction or a joint replacement even. That's usually the moment they realize, okay, I may need to look at modifying, you know, what I'm doing, you know, or, you know, if they have a cardiac event, you know, stuff like that, that tends to be that life altering, okay, I need to change my course. You know, my path is maybe going to be a different one than what I thought it's going to be. You know, most of my high school athletes that I dealt with, I mean, according to them and according to their parents, they were all going to be playing professional sports, you know, in just a few years as their full-time career. And there was no reality check at all in there. So, you know, but obviously the more deconditioned you are, the more risk factors apply here. And that's true with anything. One thing we haven't talked about, Will, you and I, you know, when we talk about obesity, but I'm really seeing in this, and this is more just observational, but even before the pandemic started, just a staggering number of healthcare workers that I've been around that are either significantly overweight or are now into that obesity realm, and really
teachers and nurses.
Yeah.
And nurses. Yep. They're so busy taking care of everybody else that they don't
take care of themselves.
Not to mention the teachers lounge, the nurses lounge always has goodies, always has stuff. And they don't take time to focus on their health. I actually just saw a post from a friend of mine who is a nurse in Central Ohio, and she was talking about, like, you know, let's normalize taking care of yourself, right? Because nurses grab food when they can, or teachers are on their break and they don't really get a lunch because they're grading papers and making copies, and they grab something quick, and it's not always healthy, right? And Chad is talking about, you know, knee stuff, you know, because I had both my ACLs, my orthopedic guys, like, because I was 100 pounds heavier, right, than I was in high school, and still thinking I could do the same things.
Sure.
My orthopedic guys, like, you should probably never run again, because because, you know, what I found is for every pound of weight that you had, it puts 4 pounds of pressure on your knees. And, you know, being 100 pounds overweight, not just what I was normally carrying, but I had 1,000 pounds of pressure on my knees. And, you know, I was talking about, you know, I've got a 5-year-old, and the catalyst was when he was born. Well, we were actually looking for a single-story house because I couldn't even make it up the steps carrying my baby because my knees hurt so bad.
And that was at age what? That
41.
41. Yeah. Which is crazy to think about. Yeah.
And so I was on my way for knee replacement surgery, a double knee replacement surgery. And now I run up and down the soccer fields and chase after my little guy, go fishing, go camping, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so it's amazing what getting healthy and dropping some pounds will do for your joints. So I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Did you have both of your ACLs at the same time, or were those different
injuries? One I was 19 and one I was 24, 25.
Okay. So, but opposite knees?
Yep.
Okay. I was just curious.
And it was interesting. One was a patellar tendon, and the other was a hamstring. So it's been interesting to kind of be a test dummy to see like which one cost and benefit. The patellar is a little more strong and sturdy, and the other one is a little more natural. And I'm like, well, my natural one didn't do so well. So that's
a whole nother rabbit hole I'd like to go down, but I probably won't do it because this is right. But that's interesting to me. Yeah, because there's a tendency, especially with after high school, where you'll see ACL reconstructions. If they repair them, they're just going ahead right with the cadaver because it's not as strong and it doesn't have the same effect. But they assume they're not going to be as active as they were, and trying to convince some of the orthopedics that I've worked with that actually the opposite. We want them to go back to a level of activity that it is up there. And I'm
so old that cadaver ones really didn't exist back in the day.
Okay.
Back in the mid 90s. Yeah. But also, they're using cadavers because the rehab's faster, right? Like
exactly.
The bounce back faster. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Quote unquote saves money, but it gets a whole nother route. Kind of like the whole thing with closing gyms during a pandemic. I mean, it's, to me, not to go down that rabbit hole, but, to me, that's where the mandate maybe should be, is maybe mandating people go to a gym, but that's just my personal.
I will tell you, my business my coaching practice from March of 2020 to March of 2021 grew by 700%.
Yeah.
Because people couldn't get to the gym and they desperately needed help. So yeah. Yep.
I was one of those guys that ran into Dunham's before they shut down to try to see if I could buy a dumbbell and what they had left. So
yeah.
It was one positive thing. People did get more flexible with their exercise and everything.
Honestly, yeah. There was you started to see creativity again.
Yeah, more independence and
and
the willingness to actually, like Ryan said, go out and find support when you need it, and that's good.
Yeah, that's
one
great.
positive.
700% is insane. I mean, that's
pretty
just
good
amazing.
Yeah, it was. I think I helped in April of 2020. I assisted just that month. New clients was 20 clients, and then May was 10 clients. And then, like I said, it just exploded from there because, it was funny. They call it the COVID-19 because people putting on, 20 pounds during the shutdown because all they had to do was eat Twinkies and bonbons and Doritos, and, I'm at home, I'm not doing
right.
So, they put on the COVID-19 pounds. So that's what we've been calling it. Yeah.
I've joked with Will about this before because some of my, colleagues, whether it be at the college or at the clinic, but, when you don't see each other because you had the lockdown and then you're gone and then they came back and a lot of them worked remotely for several months before we'd see them, coming back onto campus. And then it was just like, oh, whoa, okay, hey, like it just was kind of a surprise. Like, wow, there's been some pretty radical physical alterations and not so much positive, so it's like, wow, what are we looking at? But I know, Will, I know you've got other questions on here, but I was going to ask Ryan, just if you could, because I'm just kind of curious, like what's involved with your coaching business? Like what kind of comes with that, package when you purchase something with you to have you as a coach?
Yeah. The good news is I'm a free resource. But I get compensated working with another company. But basically, we focus on four things. We focus on nutrition, right, and eating appropriate foods. That's the key aspect to it. We focus on education, right, because 80% of people who diet gain it all back because they're looking for a quick fix. And they view it as just something quick. And so they lose 40, 50 pounds within 6 months they have it back on. So we really focus big time on the education. So nutrition, education, me as a coach, because a lot of people try to do it on their own. And I can't tell you how many people said, well, I'm going to try it on my own. And then 3 months later, they come back and say, oh, please help me. I can't do it on my own. And listen, most of us know, eat better.
Sure.
right? But what does that look like? And so you're getting me as a resource to help you navigate that. And then finally, there's a community, right? And so, so the nutrition piece, the educational piece, me as a coach, and then the community that I plug you into as well. One is accountability. Two, it's encouragement. Three, it's help, right? Because we can't do it on our own. I was going actually into physical therapy school in college, and was going to a university that will remain nameless that told me that this was back in the 90s when physical therapy was the next big career because of all the boomers, getting older and needing physical therapy with knee and hip replacements and things. And I actually wanted to focus on sports injuries like you were doing because I was the athlete and stuff. But so I took all the classes to do that. So I had a lot of knowledge about how the human body worked and stuff. And I still got over 100 pounds, right? Some of it because of injury, like I said, blowing out both my ACLs. And then obviously, my story with the diabetes and the insulin help putting on weight. I just couldn't get it off. So I utilized this system, lost 65 pounds in 5 months. And we can get into that a little bit. But basically with me, you get supports, you get good nutrition, and you get a community. And like I said, the education piece is absolutely huge for a lifelong transformation, right? Because we don't, my cousin actually is my biggest success story. She just hit the 150-pound loss mark. After 17 months, she was 5'2", 277. And she got down to 126 in 18 months. And but like I said, the key to that was getting her mind right and the educational piece, because the last thing she wanted to do was to lose 50% of her body weight and then 6 or 8 months later have it all back on. And she's,
right.
And she's setting the world on fire, and I love it. And, but she's not the only one. I've had probably, in the hundreds of people I've probably helped 20 different people lose over 100 pounds. Because they get there, right? We get there without knowing, but it's the support piece, it's the educational piece that you get with it, about getting your mind right. Because so many times we focus, or we don't focus on the main root of why we overeat, or the main root of why we view food the way we do. Mm-hmm. And so we really help people discover, wow, when I've had a bad day, I go to donuts. Or when I've had a bad day, I eat a whole pizza. Or when I've had a bad day, or when I'm celebrating, or when we eat for so many reasons in the Western world. We instead of just, food is fuel, right? Now, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy the fuel, right? You can eat well and eat good things. But really, when we view food as other things other than to fuel our body, that's really where the impact comes in. So we focus, a big part of our thing is getting our minds right, because what we've discovered is our bodies follow our minds, right? Sure. If we're not in the good, which is why during COVID, people put on so much weight, because their minds, they were struggling with mental health. And when you're struggling with mental health, your physical health really suffers as well. And so, we're not licensed psychotherapists or anything. We just have an educational system that helps you discover yourself and discover where your mind is, so that your body can follow. So that's the 4 key components of what we really focus on.
That's great that you mentioned the emotional part of eating, like a lot of, and that's going back to, like you said, nurses and teachers, their jobs are very stressful. And a lot of the times they come home and they're like, don't want to do anything else, but, that's called just stress eating basically. Yeah. And I think that's where, I work with a lot of nurses that are, obese, and it's just, like you said, we have the knowledge, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think Chad and I talked about this in the last episode where, just because you have all this knowledge doesn't necessarily mean that you have the tools to actually go ahead and, act on it, because, a lot of people need support systems, and, no matter what it is, a lot of the times you can't do it by yourself. And not just because you need it at one point doesn't mean you need it the rest of your life. Like you said, the education part, once you kind of learn what works for you, and everyone's just a little different. Once you learn what works for you and it's sustainable, like you said, that people yo-yo diet and, go back and forth in their weight. And I'm glad that you guys really prioritize that. That's, because a lot of people do go lose like 20 pounds and then, they think, oh, I can be done with this diet. And then they get back on their regular habits. And then, it's the same thing, emotional eating, high stress, like you said, if your mind's not right, it goes right back.
a lot of people look for a magic pill, right? Like they still want to eat
Yeah.
pizza and French fries and lose weight. Well, it's just that's not how it works. You've got to change your nutrition. We've been given everything we need to be healthy. We have a resource, part of the community is we have a huge resource of great recipes. We had, when we were doing this right in the midst of the weight loss portion, we had 3 teenagers and a 2-year-old at home, right? And our teenagers, our vegetables were corn and potatoes because we were farmers, right? That's it, which aren't really vegetables, right? But we learned how to cook appropriately. And my teenage son, who never ate vegetables. I mean, when he was younger, we would give him the V8 splash, right? Because it was fruit juice.
Yeah.
But that's how he would get his fruits and veggies because he wouldn't eat them. But we found great recipes where the kids were eating seconds and stuff of veggies, and that's something I'm passionate about too. I've helped teenagers, young men and young women get their health back because what better time to learn healthy habits than because in America 50% of kids right now are obese. 50%. That's insane, especially for guys like me and Chad, a little bit older, right? When we grew up outside until the street light came on. I sound like an old fart now, but we were so active, and now they literally, I run this summer camp, and we actually we run a little kids week and a week for teenagers, and it's amazing how quickly these 9 and 10-year-olds get exhausted because they're used to being in air conditioning playing video games all day, and we get them outside and get them active, and after 2 or 3 days they're wiped out, right? Because they're used to sitting on their butt and not doing anything. And so that's my I've helped people as young as 12 or 13. I've helped high school athletes that were bulking up for football season or whatever, and realize, okay, this is not great. I need to get a hold of this. And, so, it doesn't matter what, and the oldest client I've had was 87. She says, Ryan, I'm not dead yet. And I don't want to die anytime soon. I want to be healthy. So, there's no too late or too early to get healthy, but, that's what I love about it. And like you said, we don't just have plans for weight loss, we have plans for maintenance, right? And it's not like you have to, it's not like you can never go back to, your granddaughter's birthday party, not having a cupcake at her birthday party. That one cupcake at a birthday party is not what makes you obese, right? It's the eating the entire large pizza twice a week. It's the eating the double baconators and stuff like that, and the French fries and the Diet Coke, of course. Yeah, but it's those things that it's the daily habits that you really have to work on, and that's what we really focus on is changing. Just creating habits of health, right, instead of habits of obesity. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we do have some questions for you. This will kind of help. So you described your program and everything, and this will kind of help show people how you kind of came about it and like how you personally struggled and how you personally found your resources. I think it'll be a good benefit for people to kind of understand exactly how it came about to your personal health journey. So the first one we did talk about quite a bit with your personal health already, but how did you feel then when you were obese and you had diabetes compared to how you feel now, just like a real general,
Yeah, I mean, it's night and day. Something that I tell people that I talk to when I'm doing a health assessment with them and finding out their goals is I didn't realize how bad I felt until I felt good. Because you get there over time. Right. And it becomes your new normal, and I hate that because with COVID, that's kind of a trigger word now, new normal. But the needing a nap in the middle of the day, getting to the end of the day and being exhausted, not sleeping well at night because you're carrying an extra 65 pounds on your chest and you've got sleep apnea and you're getting up 2 or 3 times a night to go to the restroom and all this stuff. You're not getting good quality sleep because you're obese, and so because you're not getting good quality sleep, you're exhausted. Like I said, I was on my way for a double knee replacement because I was carrying an extra 100 pounds on my body. And you think 100 pounds, but if you go to the grocery store, the Walmart or whatever, and pick up a 50-pound bag of dog food, I was carrying 2 of those around all day, every day. And so the fact that I have released that weight and I've kept it off now for 3.5, almost 4 years, it changed my life. I wake up, I wake up feeling refreshed, as long as I don't go to bed at 2 or 3 in the morning, right? But I wake up feeling refreshed. I've got clients that say I can wake up without my alarm now. I wake up ready for the day. And so the energy piece is just the huge key to it. And like I said, if you don't think losing weight is not going to give you more energy, try carrying around that 50-pound bag of dog food for an hour.
Yeah.
And people are doing that every day, all day. And then try sleeping with it on your chest, right? Like,
Sure.
no wonder people get sleep apnea. It's because I lost 3 inches around my neck, right? Like, tell me that's not going to help me breathe better while I'm sleeping. But anyways, so yeah, just feeling amazing, sleeping better, more energy. The best part is being able to tie my shoe without feeling like my head's going to pop off and having to take a breath in between each shoe, that sort of thing. So it really just changed every aspect of my life between, one, just, and another thing it does is I think we just talked about the mental aspect. When you look in the mirror and you're 100 pounds overweight, and I know there's a whole lot of things going around about fat shaming and, body image stuff, but come on, you don't feel good about yourself. You just don't. And when you watch that scale number keep going down and you tighten up your belt, you have to buy a new belt. You have to buy a whole new. My wife and I got rid of 25 trash bags of clothes because we had to change our entire wardrobe. My waist went from a 40 to a 32, right? And so talk about that and how that makes you feel mentally. So it's not just a physical impact, it's the mental impact. And I have more confidence now. And I've always been a pretty confident person. I joke with some of my coaches I work with, like, you can borrow some of my confidence until you get your own, right? But just the amount of self-confidence heading into whether it's heading into a social situation or a meeting, heading into a social situation, you go to a wedding and your button-up shirt is, looking like this, because you can't, you're struggling to, it looks good when you're standing up and you sit down and you pop buttons and, and then, people want to dance and stuff. It's like, you don't feel comfortable doing that. So, losing weight, it doesn't just help with the physical stuff like the sleep and the energy, but like I said, the mental aspect is huge as well. Just gaining that confidence back and feeling good about yourself. Yeah.
Ryan, can you talk a little bit about your diabetes? I'm assuming, are you type 2 diabetic?
Type 2, yeah. So,
okay.
So basically, when I was 30 years old, which was unusual. Usually, type 2 comes on later on in life. When I was type 2, I wasn't feeling good. I was coaching some sports, and my head was turning purple because my blood pressure was so high. I was getting headaches, obviously the thirst, and all that comes with it. And so begrudgingly, my mother I wasn't married at the time, so my mother took that role, but got me to the doctor. And then the next day they called me and said, you have to go to the pharmacy right now. They didn't talk about nutrition, right? They said, go to the pharmacy right now. And because my blood sugar was close to 500, my A1C was 13. For those of you who don't know, blood sugar should be between 80 and 110, 120. And your A1C should be below 5.5. So that's kind of where I was. And for the next, I was 30. So, for the next 10 years, I struggled with that. Again, I was on all the medication. I was on 10 medications because, like I said, the medical field, and say whatever you want about the medical field, but typically what they do is they treat symptoms, they don't treat the cure.
Exactly.
So,
No, we agree.
I was on 10 medications, and I was on 300 units of insulin a day.
300
units.
units.
Most people are on 30 to 50. And so when I started
That's
the insulin regime, I put on 50 pounds. And for those of you who know anything about diabetes, weight is a huge issue with that as far as type 2 diabetes. So as far as diabetes goes, I started on December 7th, started my health journey. By December 15th, which was 5 weeks later, they took me off of all my insulin. And within that 5 months, I had lost 65 pounds. My A1C was down to 5.2. And I got off of 7 medications. And for 3.5 years now, I've been maintaining basically not being diabetic anymore. I take a baseline medication just to make sure my body uptakes my insulin correctly. But my A1C has for the last 2 years, without these medications, my A1C has been basically the exact same every time they take it, which now it used to be they take it every 3 months to try to stay on top of it. Now I take it once a year. I used to test my blood sugars, and with doing this health journey, My blood sugars, even with 300 units of insulin, my resting blood sugars were 100 to 250 every morning. And that was with 300 units of insulin. And within, like I said, within a couple of weeks, it normalized to between 90 and 110 at any given time during the day. It didn't matter because I changed what I was putting in my mouth.
See that right there, like
that's the key.
I was gonna ask how complicated your diabetes actually was, and like you said, a lot of people will take about like maybe 50 to 100 units a day. That's the kind of the typical. You were taking 300 units a day,
yeah,
and your blood sugar was not actually well controlled still, and you were probably taking a long lasting.
I had lots of. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
4 shots a day.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that exercise and watching nutrition actually.
Yeah. When you're 100 pounds overweight, exercise really isn't a huge thing. And for me, for my health journey, because 80% of weight loss is what you eat. And exercise is great for physical fitness, great for cardiovascular health. It's not a great way to lose weight. And that's something that we've got backwards in the United States. We think we can out exercise a bad diet, and that's just not good. And so basically what I did is I lost about 50 to 55 pounds before I integrated a good workout. I was walking and doing things like that because again, when you're super heavy, it's hard to work out, and it's also not super safe. So you have to watch what you're doing as far as getting your blood, your heart rate up. But so I lost 50, like I said, 55 pounds. I started light, because at my age, I was in my mid 40s. I didn't need to bulk, right? So I was doing, light weights, heavy reps and things like that. And so really just focuses on being fit, right? Once I lost that weight, but when you lose the weight, it's easier to do that, right? And so we focus on, obviously the physical part as far as the nutrition. And then once you get to a healthy place with your weight, we introduce that physical fitness into that as well. So, and that's something, we're not certified, exercise physiologists or anything, but we have, basically we have some ideas and things. You can hire a personal trainer if you want. We really focus on that mental and physical health. So but it changed my life. And the thing is, like, I had tried. My mom, God bless her heart, like I said, this is before I was married, but she bought me a book about how to lose weight, and I read it, and I lost 9 pounds. I was ecstatic because I'd lost 9 pounds, right? I never lost 9 pounds in my life, and then I stopped because it just plateaued, and I got depressed and just went back to doing stuff, right? But I had tried. If there's a program out there, I had tried it, right? I even got weight loss. I even got appetite suppressants from my doctor that were super duper expensive and didn't work. Right. And so when I found this style of plan, my wife did it first, right? Like I said, she had lost a stepdad, and she needed to get that baby weight off. She lost 30 pounds in 10 weeks. And I said, my gosh, I've never seen anything like this. So I went, without telling her, I went to her coach and said, I need to do this, and signed up right after Thanksgiving. So I like I said, I said, I need to do this, and started focusing on my nutrition. Like I said, I started December 7th. I navigated 5 Christmas dinners. Like I said, my anniversary is actually today. And so I navigated an anniversary trip. And so by the end of December, started December 7th, by the end of December, I was down 21 pounds. And I knew right then I needed to share it with the world, because I had never, think about this. Most people say, oh yeah, I could lose 20 pounds. Pretty much everybody, except for maybe Will down there, a little skinny guy, but pretty much everybody could stand to lose 20 pounds, right? But I did that in 3 weeks, even through Christmas, 5 Christmas dinners, anniversary trip, was able to lose 21 pounds. And like I said, I never looked back, and it was life altering. Clearly, my doctor, I walked in my doctor in May 15th, and she walked in, walked out, and then walked back in. She says, I thought I had the wrong chart, because I had dropped 65 pounds. My A1C dropped to 5.2. My triglycerides were in, all my cholesterols were where they needed to be. The good ones were good and the bad ones, all that stuff. And she's like, she said, Ryan, you have added years, if not decades, to your life. The average lifespan for a diabetic is about 60 years old instead of 75. So, she said, you've added years to your life, and which is one of the reasons why I'm not going to go back. Right.
Yeah.
Because I do have kids that are 5 and 25, and grandkids and kids in between. So I want to be around for them. So that's how it changed my diabetes story. So yeah.
It's like, just, as a nurse, and I'm sure Chad obviously knows this too, like you said, like a lot of the times, we've talked about this before, where a lot of prescriptions are really just to treat your symptoms and not really actually to, reverse. A lot of people think that type 2 diabetes, like a lot of healthcare providers, like my fellow nurses, don't actually think that diabetes is reversible, type 2, obviously. And like, no, I've always thought that this, you could, if you change your nutrition, you can actually, get rid of it. And, I'd actually personally, until I just heard your story just now, didn't think it was, that response. I thought it was going to take, it might take years, but thinking back or looking at your diabetes, yours was complicated. It wasn't just a little bit of diabetes. Like, you had a
complicated. It wasn't a little bit of sugar, right?
Yeah. Says, like, right? The fact that you turned around that fast. I mean, obviously insulin's there to treat your problem, but it's not there to, it's there to treat the blood sugar problem, but it's not there to actually cure your problem.
Well, I actually
saw a lot of medicines like that. So
I actually saw a TED Talk. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here, but I saw a TED Talk about the insulin cycle, right? Like, you take insulin to drop your blood sugar, but then your blood sugar drops, so then you got to eat.
Yeah.
To get your blood sugar back up.
It's a cycle.
But then you've got to take more insulin because your blood sugar is up. And so if you just eat low glycemic index, which is what I really focus on, is a low glycemic index. And for those of you who don't know, basically when you eat food, your body releases insulin to digest the food. And if you're eating high index foods like the Twinkies and the pizzas and the French fries, your body releases too much insulin. And then your insulin goes down, and then you create a need to eat, because that, for those of you who haven't dealt with diabetes, basically it gets that low and you get shaky and you get ravenous, and it just starts to cycle all over again. So if you eat a low glycemic index, basically the right amount of carbs, the right amount of proteins, the right amount of sugars, because your body needs all of those things, by the way. Your brain functions on carbs. So, cutting out carbs is a great way to drop weight, but it's not healthy. And it's eat the healthy stuff, right? Eat the healthy carbs. But that's the stuff that we'll help you with, right? Because navigating that, I will tell you, French fries and pizza are not the healthy carbs. And so that's the insulin cycle. And so, not one time in 10 years of being diabetic did any of my doctors say, "Hey, let's focus on your nutrition. Here's a good resource."
No, it's insulin.
It's not working. Here's more pills. Here's more medication.
Here's more quick fixes. It's what medicine is nowadays.
It didn't fix it.
Yeah.
It masked it, and it didn't mask it well.
Yep. And then this is exactly what cardiac meds are too. The cardiac meds, half the time, you have a high blood pressure. Oh, here's a medication that'll fix it for 12 hours. Then you have to take it again after 12 hours. Yep. And then, what does that actually help you? No, it doesn't help you. It's just,
and that's, I also that up with blood pressure and cholesterol meds too. So, those things typically go with the diabetes, the blood pressure and bad cholesterol. So I got off that's part of the meds I got off as well. Was blood pressure and cholesterol. So, yep.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Chad, I'm just reading off the questions we had for him, but if you have any additional questions, just butt in. And what do you think your biggest struggle was personally?
I really like your statement too. I wrote that down, but when you can't out train a bad diet, like that's such a true statement.
Yeah. Well, I did as a former athlete. I'll say former because I'm old and shouldn't, but I was going to the gym. I was doing the gym 3-4 times a week, and it wasn't doing it. The scale wasn't moving. Now I would get a good sweat on, a good lather on, and I was strong. I was strong as an ox, but because I'm carrying around an extra 100 pounds, your leg muscles are strong from doing that. But yeah, I would say my biggest struggle was really just the vicious cycle of, like you said, I am a teacher, and I was, because teachers don't make enough money, I was always doing a second job, and so I'd get home at 8-9 o'clock at night, and what do? You microwave something, you order something, and then you eat the whole thing. You go out to eat, and portions in America are twice what they need to be. You can still eat out. Just get a to-go box at the beginning of it, put half of it in there for later, and only eat half of it so you don't overeat. There's ways to do this. You can get a good piece of lean meat and get some good veggies at pretty much any restaurant. But it's the fact that they give you a 14-inch plate instead of a 9-inch plate, right? And they fill it. And you eat the whole thing, right? And so, it was the not having time. I was single. It was the comfort foods. I love carbs, the bad carbs, the donuts and the pizzas. And it was just so time. And then at that point, when you're 100 pounds overweight or 100 pounds, I won't say 100 pounds overweight. I was 50, 60 pounds overweight, but I was 100 pounds heavier than I was in high school. I was a beanpole in high school. I was 5'8", 135. So I needed to put on a little bit of weight, but not 100 pounds. But when you get to that point and you are obese, it's a vicious cycle because nothing has worked. So why try anything? My cousin I told you about that's lost 150 pounds and has reduced her body weight by more than 50%. She waited for 2.5 years after my journey because she was convinced. She says, I saw that it worked for you and Emmy, but I knew because I had tried everything, if it didn't work for me, nothing would. Mm-hmm. Right? Because you get to that point where nothing has worked and you just lose all hope. And the only reason why I did this was because I saw it work for my wife. I saw her lose 30 pounds in 10 weeks. And I thought, I have never seen anything work like this. I've got to try it. And then, of course, like I said, the rest is history. I lost that 21 pounds in 3 weeks or 4 weeks and just never looked back. Now, obviously, the first weight loss, I talk about water weight. And there's a lot of science behind that. Carbs basically is what your body burns through first before it gets into a fat burn. And carbs hold on to a ton of water. It's like a 3-to-1 ratio. Like for every, we'll just say pound, for every pound of carbs that you have, your body holds on to 3 pounds of water. So when people say you're losing water weight, you really are. So the first week is pretty dramatic. And after that, it slows down to a healthy 2 to 4 pounds per week for the rest of the journey that you're on. So about 10 pounds a month. But so like I said, the first month is dramatic because of that carb and water loss. But it just, that's what I would say the biggest thing is just the mental aspect of nothing's worked. So I might as well just eat myself into oblivion because it doesn't matter what I eat. And the thing is, like with the diabetes and the blood sugars, like it was super depressing because like I would eat the same thing every day and my blood sugars were not the same every day, right? It didn't matter. I could eat the same thing at the same time and my blood sugars were all over the place. And I even told my wife, who was praying that my diabetes would go away long before this. And I was like, I'm always going to have it. It's always going to be something I deal with because I've always had it and it doesn't matter what I eat. It always just does this. Well, guess what? It really does matter what you eat. But nobody had ever trained me how to eat appropriately. And that's really what we focus on. That's really what we focus on is proper nutrition. Yeah.
It's awesome. Mm-hmm. Did you experience any health issues? Like, did you ever have to get put into a hospital or, for diabetes?
Because I had only had it when I started, so about 7 years. I still had good circulation. I didn't, because I hadn't dealt with it for 20 or 30 years because I nipped it in the bud. I didn't get to the neuropathy. I didn't get to the sores. I didn't get to any of that stuff. My biggest thing was the constant thirst and the urination, the sleeping horrible, and just kind of all the stuff that is the initial stuff. But because I didn't deal with it for decades, I was able to, and that's why my doctor said I added decades to my life or years to my life because I got on top of it before it became a huge. I mean, having those blood sugars in the 200s and 300 to 400 units of insulin, that's where, your liver functions, your kidney functions, and all that sort of thing really start to wane because of the constant pressure from the highs and the lows and all that extra insulin in your body. So yeah. So I was able to avoid serious side effects, other than, like I said, the blood pressure, the cholesterol, and all that stuff, which would have led to a lot.
Yeah, would have led to all of that. What Chad and I see.
Yeah. Yep. So luckily, I was young enough and dealt with it quickly enough that relatively, right? 7 years as opposed to 30. So, yeah. But listen, my story is not unique. My cousin's husband was diabetic. He lost 104 pounds. Got off of all of his meds, metformins, all that stuff. It's not unique to just me. And there's a lot of other health benefits that we're not really allowed to promote because we call them non-scale victories, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that happens off the scale. Just whether it's hematomas. I get a little bit frustrated with the medical industry at times. One of my clients had broke her leg, like 12 years ago, and she had a hematoma on her leg, and the doctor's like, "We're just always going to have it." She had it for 12 years. Within 3 days of starting my plan, it went away.
Yeah,
because
it just really reinforces like how important nutrition is, and
oh,
there's a
100%,
time and place for medicine. Of course, there's a time and place for
100%,
medicine, and
100%.
we are
Yeah.
really, our country is so good at treating the critically ill, but there is no there's very limited education on nutrition for most people, and
Well,
if you're
and
not,
look, it's like
so
cholesterol, right? There are some genetic things with cholesterol that you just can't control, right? But
yeah,
most of it is it's the pizza and the French fries, right? Like knock it off, and you're not going to have clogged arteries. But there are some genetic factors that go into
yeah,
that as well, and some people just have to be on a low dose of stuff because of the genetic factors or the family history of heart disease, whatever.
yeah.
Like you said, there is a time and place for some medicine, but it shouldn't be the go-to. When there are other things you can do. The body heal. Here's something crazy. I had to get new eyeglasses at the end of my journey because my eyesight improved.
Yeah, yeah,
My eyesight improved. And as a diabetic, that's something that really,
yeah.
your sugars can really affect. So I was like, the doctor's like, your your eyesight got better. How did that? So yeah, crazy stuff. Though. So,
That's funny.
It's crazy.
mm-hmm.
So was there like a moment that you remember, like just one moment that well, you kind of already talked about it, is your wife's influence, but was there another moment that like sparked your weight loss journey that you would say?
Well, like I said, I just like all Americans, right? Like you see somebody who loses some massive amount of weight, you reach out to them, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? And every time I did that, it was like, take this pill and drink this water, or do this thing and drink water. So I thought, it sounds like water's the key. All these plans are, drink water, which it is, right? Like water, it cleanses your system, it hydrates your cells. All our body is, is a high percentage of water. If you're dehydrated, you feel horrible. But really, everybody's looking for a magic pill, and I wasn't super into magic pills because I tried a few, right? I tried pink drinks and I tried supplements that you have to take the rest of your life, and I wasn't convinced of those things because it didn't work. And when I saw that you could eat real foods that tasted pretty good and get healthy and lose weight, I was like, okay, I get to eat 6 times a day because we really focus on small portions, right, throughout the day. But it just when I saw my wife, I knew it was real. And then I did it and was able to help, like I said, hundreds of other people. And the only people it hasn't worked for are the people who don't really follow what I ask them to do, right? If you follow the nutrition plan that I work with, you will have results, right? And you can have long-term success. It's up to you. Like I said, you've got to fix the 6 inches between your ears, right? If you can do that, you're going to have long-term success. And that's, and everybody gets into this for the diet, right? They call diet, and we don't use that word. It's like a bad word in our industry. We talk about the health journey because it is a journey. First of all, it's not a 6-month quick fix, and it is about your health. A side effect of eating better is overall health, and that means not just the weight loss, but the cholesterols, the blood pressures, and all sorts of things. So, but I knew very quickly. I started coaching actually only 5 weeks into my journey. Or 4 weeks into my journey, because I found something that worked and I wanted to share it with the world. I didn't know what it would turn into. I had no clue that 700 people just to this point, right, would have said yes to getting healthy, because I wanted to help them. But it's pretty amazing. And listen, I stay in contact with my clients on a weekly basis. We do phone calls, quick, 3 to 5 minute check-ins. But hearing the stories of, I was able to get down on the floor with my grandkids. I was able to, get off of this med or that med. I was able to, climb these stairs. I was able to go hiking again. I was able to get back on my bike. Man, I could do this for free, and that be my payment. And it's so, watching people get their lives back is so rewarding.
Sure.
And that's what keeps me going. Because like I said, everybody's got a side hustle, right? And this started out like that, like, oh, I'm just gonna help a few people, and a few people turned into hundreds of people. So, and pretty soon thousands. So yeah.
Yeah, you hit also, to me, I mean, one of the things that's missing a lot, and I say this without, I don't want to throw like any particular company under the bus with this, but I still get into the clinic to see patients on occasion, and in our electronic health record system, it will basically light up like with this warning, that shows up for a patient when their BMI is unhealthy or their body weight is too high. And like what we are encouraged to do right now is when that warning is there, we're supposed to make sure that we inform the patient that they are overweight and need to do something about it. And I'm always like, so do you really don't think that they know that they're overweight? And I mean, you think you're giving them some kind of like groundbreaking information? That's not the problem. We're doing a great job of identifying who needs to lose weight.
Yeah.
But that's all we're telling them. We're not giving them,
like, you can lose
go talk
10
to a
15
coach.
pounds. Okay, tell me how.
Right, exactly.
They never give you solutions. We'll eat better.
They never give you solutions, and that's where you see like all of these like, fad products that get advertised and people will go out and buy. And you mentioned Walmart, you go look at Walmart, there's a whole aisle on things you can take to lose weight that I have, pictures of before and after, and they're willing to pay money, for that quick fix because they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's the missing piece. That's what I really like about, this type of a business that you have, because it's that missing component. And it used to drive me absolutely crazy because I would get told, well, I don't think you've been identifying some of your patients that are overweight to let them know. And I'm like, well, I mean, they're kind of, I think they're aware, well, just make sure you tell them so you can check off your box that you've informed them. Right. And I'm like, okay, that's helpful.
Check off your box. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I've seen a lot of things. And a new trend in medicine, and I've seen this because of being diabetic and also trying to help a lot of diabetics. That the medical field is really pushing right now is intermittent fasting for diabetics. Worst possible thing a diabetic can do: eat for 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day and not eat the rest of the day. How in the world is that going to normalize?
Talk about unstable blood sugars.
And this is the number one thing right now that the medical profession is pushing on diabetics. And I'm thinking, I don't have a medical degree, but guess what? Most doctors take about 8 hours of nutrition.
Nope. Right. I talked about that last time. Nursing education too. You get one module of nutrition education. That's it. Yeah. There's actually no application to it either.
Yeah. I actually just spent beginning of December, Dr. Anderson, who is the guy who developed the program that I work with, invited a few of us down to Orlando for a conference, and he launched. He was one of the top 3 critical care doctors in the country, and just like you guys, he was tired of treating illness and wanted to treat wellness, right? And so that's why he started this. But basically, he just like, are you kidding me? Intermittent fasting for diabetics? Like, that's the worst possible thing you can tell people. But that's the number one thing they're telling people right now. Every time I hear that, and like, well, my doctor want me to do that. He wants me to eat 3 hours a day and not eat the rest of the day. I'm thinking, good Lord. Like, and I don't want to throw their doctor on the bus because I don't know their relationship and things like that. But my goodness, why not eat low glycemic things throughout the day to keep your blood sugars normal and keep your metabolism going? You're going to lose weight. And guess what? He's going to lose a patient because you're not going to be diabetic anymore. And that might be the key. I'm just going to leave it at that.
You don't want to think it that way, but that's sometimes, I wonder but you mentioned too, I mean, like with some of the food choices, truly people don't realize sometimes, what's considered low glycemic. And, I was literally talking to a diabetic not too long ago who was telling me how she's been changing her diet and making sure she avoids, bad foods. And while she's telling me this, she's drinking a Pepsi.
Yeah.
And I was like, like, do you know?
Another thing too, like a lot of people think, and during our weight loss portion, we cut out fruits and dairy primarily because they aren't necessarily low glycemic. They think, oh, it's fruit, it's good for you. Well, listen, there's a ton of fructose and stuff in there that, fruit, but they see the minerals and vitamins, but there's a way to get your minerals and vitamins that's not supplements that is not, like a banana or an orange is one of the worst things you can eat because there's so much sugar in it. Now it's good for maintenance, right? It's good for maintaining healthy weight. It's not good for cutting weight because there's got to be that calorie reduction, right? So yeah. So again, people think I'm going to eat healthy, so they start eating fruits, they start eating different things like that, and that's not really it's a better choice than a Twinkie. I will say that.
There you go.
But it's not going to help you hit your goals. So and like you said, that's why we set it up the way we did because you don't know, right? And most people don't know, including some doctors, it sounds like. But the fact that we're trained, we're certified, like I said, through Villanova University, and we basically just really focus on good nutrition and helping people learn how to make choices, right? That's the key, is learning what foods are good for you and what foods are not. So yeah.
And adding some pathophysiology behind high glycemic index, we talk about the 3 P's of diabetes: polyphagia, polydipsia, and polyuria, where you're eating, drinking, and peeing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a high spike of blood sugar, what's that going to do? That's going to increase your hunger. And it's a normal body reaction. So it's good that you guys focus on the glycemic index, because like you said, Chad, a lot of people don't know what that is. Like, there's no education behind that. And, I didn't, in nursing school, we never learned about low and high glycemic index for diabetes management. So this is something that actually has to be learned outside of,
No, I mean, actually, when I pointed out to her the Pepsi, and she, like, while she was talking to me, she like turns the label and she's like, well, it's only got, 30 some grams. And I'm like, yeah, but that's per serving. I go, how many servings are in that bottle?
Yeah,
she's like,
people don't know how to read labels.
She's like, 2.5, and then there's that realization as she's doing the math in her head, and she's finishing the bottle she just consumed almost 100 grams of sugar, and it was like, oh, I'm like,
Well, that's another thing that people don't realize: Gatorade, right?
Oh yeah.
Gatorade has more sugar than soda.
Yeah.
And, now if you get this Gatorade Zero, the Powerade Zero, that's nothing, because you get some good electrolytes and things. But you've really got to watch the sports drinks too, because they're not necessarily better for you either. So,
advertising is very powerful.
Yeah.
And labels are very misleading too. And I always told people that, like, anytime someone's looking to do something like weight loss and stuff, like, you need to learn how to read labels. That is a very important tool. And actually, going into that, we actually had that question about what tools, or just tool, I guess, what was the number one tool you used? As in, obviously you talk about your program and everything, but there actual like tools, such as maybe using an app on your phone that helped you start out or something like that?
So I talked about the educational material. With this comes just like a quick reference guide, as far as like, if you eat this lean meat, here's how much you can eat. If you eat this type of veggie, here's how to measure it out. And so just learning that initially, because guess what? There are levels of vegetables too, right? Like, there are really good vegetables, there's okay vegetables, and there's some like carrots and corn you should just stay away from, right? Carrots and ranch sounds like a great snack, but it doesn't work, right? Just the educational material really that comes with this, as well as my coach, right? Leaning on my coach and learning from my coach who had been through it before, and who knew more than I did. And that's why we set up with a coach system, because we don't know. And, it's a learning process, right? And learning good nutrition, learning portion sizes and all that thing is part of the educational materials that comes with this. So, when you agree to work with me, you get one-on-one coaching, you get a community, you get the good nutrition piece, you get the educational piece, and really the only thing you're paying for is food, which you're already buying probably inappropriately. So.
Yeah, save you some money.
Yeah. Well, and that's just, so people look at, because we actually so the way we do it is we've got a system where you eat a small, like 100 to 120 calorie system, 5 times a day. So about every 2 or 3 hours, you're fueling your body with something else. It's got 20 minerals and vitamins. It's all natural stuff. And then your meal is what we call lean and green, right? And so it's lean meat, it's something green. Now, it doesn't have to be grilled chicken salad. That's the worst diet ever, like eating grilled chicken salad for the rest of your life. Like, it's so boring. But we really focus on that. And so, people look at, well, eating healthy is expensive. Well, what's more expensive, being on 10 medications, or spending an extra $50 more than what you would naturally? And another thing is, most people spend between $15 and $25 a day on food. And they say, bull crap, I only spend $100 a week at the grocery store. Okay, but you're going through Starbucks, you're going through Wendy's, you're going through Subway, you're going through Taco Bell. A young lady I helped one time, she's a young lady, she was like 24 years old, 25 years old. She was an hourly worker, right? Making just more than minimum wage. She's like, there's no way I can afford to get healthy. I said, I challenged her. I said, look at this, sit down, look at your bank statement for the last 30 days. Anytime you bought something that went in your mouth, write it down. The next day she came back and she says, oh my gosh, this is going to save me money. Because they were eating out every night. Her and her husband were eating out every night and spending $20 to $25 on the meal every night. They were getting coffee for $5 in the morning. And not that you can't have coffee, right? But, obviously the frou-frou drinks and stuff. But, so really eating healthy, for us, it was a wash. Because we weren't going through the donut shops and the coffee shops and the fast food places. And like I said, you can still eat out and still be social, but making good choices with that. But it really is basically cost neutral to eat healthy, especially when you figure in all those things, but especially when you figure in the medications you're on, that how quickly you can get off of them. I mean, and you guys know this, cost of medicine is out of control. Right. And the fact that I got off of 7 medications, you think that saved me a little bit of money every month?
Yeah.
Right. So
just any of the complications that could go with, just the medicines alone, but with the conditions, I mean, you're looking at crazy. Yeah.
Talk about prioritizing. Our society is taught to prioritize financial, monitoring over our own health. And, that's sad because
and another thing too, like they'll spend $50 at a gym membership and pay, a personal trainer and all this stuff, and all that stuff, like I said, is great for physical fitness, but as far as weight loss, it's not a great choice. So they'll spend $150, $200 a month on trying to get physically fit, but not really focusing on, if they would spend their regular grocery bill and an extra $50 to $100 a month, they realistically could get super healthy, then maintain with the healthy weight and get back into the gym and not have to, bust their chops so much. So yeah. It's like I said, we've got a mentality in this country of, I'll get a gym, this, right? Next week, gym memberships are going to skyrocket for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then people, people who normally work out hate January and the early February because of it. But, we've got this mentality is, 70% of New Year's resolutions are health related. 70%. Most of them are misguided. Most of them are misguided because we don't know. Like you talked about, Chad, we just don't know. You don't know where to look. Weight Watchers gets a ton of people, and the Atkins and the ketos and all this stuff. And like I said, there's lots of ways to lose weight. Not all of them are healthy. So if you're going to choose, in the next few days, if you're going to choose, a health journey, just make sure do a lot of research. Make sure what you're doing is healthy. Because like I said, there's a lot of ways to lose weight and lose weight rapidly, but are just not super healthy. So be careful choosing a plan.
So talking about support systems, obviously you didn't have the program when you started. What was your personal support system
So I had a coach. I used the system that I coach to now. I had a coach, I had the community, I had the 4 pillars, right? The community, the coach, the nutrition piece, and then the education materials as well. So that's really what I had. But really it's just making a decision. But your why has to be big enough, right? Your why has to be big enough to say no to the donuts at the gas station. Your why has to be big enough that when you get home from a long day of work, you don't just order a pizza and eat the whole thing. If your why is not big enough, it doesn't matter what program you do, you're going to fail. You have to figure, and that's something we do. That's one of the first questions I ask. Why'd you reach out? What's your goal? What do you want to accomplish? And then I remind them that every week when I call them. If they had a bad day or a bad couple of days, hey, remember when you said you want to get down on your floor and play with your grandkids? You still want to do that? I just remind them of their why. And so, so that's what my coach did for me. And like I said, when she said, man, you should really think about sharing this with others. She actually talked to my wife first. My wife's like, hey, how about my husband? He can do it. She threw me under the bus, but I had more time, and because like I said, she had a high profile job, and I do have a heart to help people and serve people. And that's why I initially did this, because I knew it worked for me and I wanted to support people and do that. And I love the system that I love the system of support and knowledge and things like that that it gave me, because it was scientifically proven, which I'm a science teacher, so I love that. There was science behind it, there was data behind it, and results behind it. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would just like to say, if anyone who is watching or listening to this podcast, like I mean, a lot of people have at least one family member who is diabetic, or no matter how severe or, mild it is, or, a lot of people, you can now monitor for pre-diabetes, a lot of confirmed pre-diabetes cases that will end up turning into diabetes if it's not controlled. I would say, like, please encourage someone to watch this. Like, I think this right here is a huge support system, like a start of a support system. Something that something like what Ryan is doing is so important. It could make a huge impact. And, and like my personal experience, and I'm sure Chad can also agree to this, like we see the worst of diabetes. We see the worst of other health complications from diabetes. A lot of the times cardiac is impacted. It'll lead to strokes, heart attacks and everything else. I'm not going to bash on the medical system, but I will say this out loud, but we aren't, our systems do not support the actual reversal. They don't support, they're supporting your symptoms, make you comfortable. It's like it's almost trying to make you comfortable and accept the diagnosis more than anything. And, there's diagnoses out there. Huh?
Yeah, that's where I was. That's why I told my wife, I'm always going to be diabetic. I just have to accept it. It doesn't matter
a lot
what
of them.
I do. And she's like, I don't think that's true. And so my wife first is the one that first planted that in me. And I didn't necessarily think that was going to be a side effect of getting healthy. I was just trying to lose some weight because I felt horrible.
Yeah.
Right.
And well, within a week, my blood sugars were normalizing and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And like I said, within 5 months, my A1C was to a point where my doctor said, you're not diabetic anymore. Congrats.
Added perk to something you weren't necessarily thinking. So.
Exactly. Like we call those non-scale victories, right?
Right.
Things can't be measured by a scale. Yep.
And if anything, that is the biggest victory, is you're added on years. Just because you lost weight doesn't mean anything. The fact that you got that with it, you have something to show with people. Like, hey, I literally have, I got off 7 medications, like you said. Like the fact that that was the biggest impact over everything. And a lot of people think that once you're diagnosed with diabetes, it's over. Like, a lot of my patients, I get patients who've been, diagnosed for a couple years, or, or for first time even. Sometimes I get patients who didn't even know they had diabetes and end up in the ICU because they had a complication. I'm sure you're aware of some of them, but HHS is a huge one, where your blood sugar goes above 600 and, it got a lot of electrolyte issues, your cardiac system, you probably passed out from it. You're in our ICU now and you have to be on an insulin drip. That's basically what I see a lot of the times. And then I'll get patients who have had diabetes for 30 to 40 years, have multiple wounds all over them, get amputations. This is a common thing that I see. And, how many different, people, if they had some kind of support system like you're offering to people, it can make the biggest impact on not just their personal lives, but also on the healthcare systems. You know how big of a stress diabetes care is on every single healthcare system out there. And, it complicates everything. And, a lot of the health complications we see are related. There's an underlying diabetes diagnosis. It's not, this is the cause. This is the actual cause of your complication. But people look at the actual complication in the hospital, or you had a heart attack, let's treat it, and then they go home.
Right.
Okay, what caused it? Was it,
and that's just it. Like we said, 70 to 80% of Americans are overweight or obese right now. And even if it's not diabetes, just the obesity. I mean, the impact it has on your heart, your lungs, your cardiovascular system, just your knees, all those sorts of things. And so, just getting on and so, let's lose some weight and get healthy before you get the diabetes, before you get the heart disease and do all that stuff, right? Like there is a way, and this is something that most Americans don't know. There is a way to be proactive in your health to prevent those complications. Well, diabetes and heart disease run in my family. Great. How about you running in your family, right? Like let's get you running, let's get you healthy, and then you don't have to pass that. You don't have to pass the family history of obesity down to your kids. You go out grocery shopping, and it breaks my heart when I see these little dudes that are 5 or 6 years old and they're drinking the Mountain Dews and they're doing this stuff, and they're like 150 pounds at 10 years old. And it's like, man, it didn't have to be this way. And so I try to create generational health. Like I said, I've helped teenagers and things like that. We really can go as young as like 8 or 9. Much more than that, we don't focus on that. But, we can help kids. We can help adults. We can, help prevent, stay out of the hospital.
The unhealthy habits are being taught earlier and earlier and earlier now. And I wonder what that's going to impact. We're going to see a lot of younger complications.
You kind of mentioned it too, Ryan, with the grocery store. I mean, you're kind of almost set up to fail because the healthier foods are more expensive. So, if you're on a fixed income or you have limited income, you tend to go to the processed, stuff, which is quite a bit cheaper, which, in reality, that's a very odd system that we have in place where the healthier stuff is more expensive.
Yeah. Well, like I said, realistically, for only about $50 more per month, you can eat a healthy diet. And listen, I have been in a situation where $50 in my budget would have been impossible. And I get that. But for most Americans, if you cut out the donuts, the Starbucks, the Wendy's, the running through the drive-thru, if you cut that out, I mean, that $50 is a month, $50 a month. That cuts out pretty quickly. So it's definitely doable. And like I said, think about all the medications and doctor's visits and things that you can cut out and all the co-pays, come on.
Yeah. Talking about actual behavior, humans are headline readers. So they look at face value of everything. You look at, hey, this is, like Chad said, everything's right in your face, where the unhealthy food's in your face. This is only $4, but the healthy version of this is over here is at $12. So I'm not going to spend that extra amount of money because it has, way better health benefits or, better macronutrients. But we're face value, we're headline readers, and, it causes a lot of problems when you actually talk about nutrition education. There's a lot of barriers they go through. Not like you said, there is financial barriers out there, but a lot of the times you find out it's really not. It's a lot of the emotional barriers that you were taught when you were younger. It's, generational unhealthy behaviors. When you talk about family history, how much of that is actually genetic or is it actually behavior? There's a lot of things you can look at, I love this conversation. I just wish this was a more talked about thing. You don't see too many conversations about this in general, actual prevention. A lot of people, when I kept telling people that diabetes can be reversed if you actually, have the right tools and the right support systems and you catch it at the right time, you're not waiting another 30 years and, you're already, it's gone at that point.
Yep. You
can reverse it. And I love your story because it shows it, you didn't just have mild diabetes.
Yeah.
This is something that's a really huge thing. I really encourage anybody who is watching this, anybody who, knows someone, please shine this their way. And, it gives them encouragement. I really hope that this is a start to someone's, I hope this helps everybody who is struggling with this.
Our motto is we want to get the world healthy, one healthy habit at a time. Yeah. Right. We develop new healthy habits. And we just we focus on the daily habits, and that takes a while, right? And so, most New Year's resolutions are done in 17 to 19 days.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, we don't focus on now obviously this is a big time of year for us, but I usually sign up. I usually start more new clients in March and April than I do in January and February. One, because they want to try it themselves, right? And then they realize in March, like, oh crap, I'm in the same position. I better reach back out to Ryan, right? And so but I'm here whenever, and I can start you on a Sunday, a Saturday, a Tuesday. It doesn't matter. We'll get you rocking and rolling and get you healthy. And that's what I love is that. It's one decision and then a bunch of small decisions after that, right? You get your why. Why do I want to do this? Why, I want to be around for my grandkids. I want to be able to carry my son to his bedroom, right? I want to do these things. And when you remember the whys, when I want to feel good, I want to look good, I want to get in that, I had my cousin also coaches because when you lose 150 pounds, people notice, right? So and one of her old high school classmates, her daughter got married, and she says, Anita, for the first time in my life, I felt pretty. You think that goes a long way towards the mental health aspect of it? You know, first time, she's 52 years old. First time in my life I felt pretty.
Wow.
Because she had, my cousin is smaller now at 52 than she was when she was 8 years old.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's why
Yeah.
I do this. It's for the one, right? The one who's laying in bed, praying at night, God, I need answers. I need solutions.
Yeah.
Because I was there, right? And that's why I decided to help people do this, because um, I was there. I was at my end, and I didn't have any answers. I didn't have any solutions. And when I found this system, I was like, I have to share this with the world, because I know there are people laying in bed at the end of their rope, no hope whatsoever, no belief. And like I said, when I talk to most of these people and I ask them their height and their weight and what their goals are and stuff, most of them are drastically less than what they really need to be, because they don't think it's possible,
Mm.
because they've worked out, 5 days a week and they lost 7 pounds in 6 months. Most people are like, oh, I lost 20 pounds last year. I'm like, great, I lost 20 pounds my first month. And listen, 20 pounds is nothing to scoff at. But it just, I love helping people get their lives back, man, or get a life they've never had, which is what my cousin has now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's great. I'm so glad you came and joined us on this podcast. This
Absolutely.
is such a beneficial thing. Putting it in video form or on podcast form, anybody can listen to this and, listen to your story. And, Chad and I are always been passionate about this kind of stuff. And, working in the healthcare field, it's kind of, I would say, discouraging a lot of the behaviors that we see, because we don't necessarily have the power where we currently, like Chad in the clinic, and we only get so much time with them, and
Mhm.
we're there to actually, Chad's there to do rehab, and he doesn't have the resources to just hand all this information to you. This is something that needs to be a support system outside of where
Yeah.
you go. And I obviously only get like 12 hours with them, like and they're, most of the time when I'm with them, they're not even able to comprehend anything I'm saying. So it's just, I just want to encourage anybody who is listening to this. If you're not diabetic, that's great. And this is beneficial for anybody who isn't diabetic either. Just because you're healthy, you can still optimize your health. And it doesn't, there's always improvements that you can make.
Well, and we also have plans for people who need to gain weight.
Yeah. See,
I've got a lot of friends who are coaches now, who had an unhealthy relationship with food, and they had eating disorders, and this helped them get some structure in their life and be healthy that way too. So it's not about weight loss; it's about overall health. And some people need to gain weight.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And nutrition education is something I hope increases over the years, and I think it's beginning to become a more common thing from what I'm seeing. So, all right, well, thank you so much. You guys have any closing conversations you want to have? We'll
Ryan,
put a link. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, go ahead and make sure we link to his information. But Ryan, thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And listen, if you're interested in getting healthy, like I said, there's a link in the bio or a link in the description. You can click on that. It's just a quick Google form to fill out. Let me know what your goals and expectations are, and I'll reach out to you within 24 hours or so, whether through email or phone or whatever you want me to do. But also, if you are, because I know a lot of healthcare providers listen to this as well, if you are interested in the coaching aspect, we can talk about that as well. If you're interested in how to help your clients, and you want to do that, and you want to help your patients, we can talk about that too, because you don't have to have a massive weight loss story to be able to help people get healthy, right? You just have a passion to help people. So if that's something you're interested in too, in having, and you want to have the resources I have to get the education to them, to get the nutrition to them, we can talk about that too. A way to really just maximize your impact as well. So I will help you do either or. And like I said, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. This, like I said, I started out as just to help a few people, and this turned into something I never would have thought, helping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's now my passion. So thanks for having me on, guys.